Hello, and welcome to the Break Free Find Joy podcast. I'm your host, Brandy Sickles, and I'm so thankful to have you here with us. Today is episode 9, and we're going to be talking about how people and situations can be like a mirror back to ourselves, how difficult that can be, and things that I found helpful when I find myself realizing these things. I've wanted to do this for a long time, but I keep putting it off. And let me tell you, trying to record this has been one of the most difficult sessions. I don't know what is going on with the mic. It keeps shutting on and off, and I've been really tempted to just scratch the whole thing and do you ever get that feeling where it's like, well, this particular thing is just cursed and I'm going to, put that aside and we're just going to do something else? Because that's what it feels like today. But I also feel like this is the perfect time to have this conversation because we're coming up on the holidays. This is coming out the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. And if you haven't already had any dinners or get-togethers with your friends and family, you most likely are. And with that comes a lot of course, excitement and fun, but stress as well. It's been a really hard time for a lot of us the last few years. Can we meet? Can't we meet? Just all the things. And then, what are you going to talk about? There's so much that's so divisive in the world. Don't want to say the wrong thing. It's just been a lot. And something that I'm continuously learning and getting better at recognizing is our bodies know and recognize a change of seasons and things like that more than what we might realize. It's like instinctual, especially if you grew up and had a stressful upbringing or kind of a rough childhood or something, or for whatever reason the holidays were stressful for you when you were younger, even if they're not particularly stressful now, if you haven't consciously worked through that and know what effect that has on your body, your body does. So some of us have this unexplained anxiety around this time. We might say I'm just anxious and I don't know why. A lot of that is, it might just be our bodies preparing ourselves for something that may have already happened, but it doesn't realize that. It's not past in our body's mind. It's something that it's still going through, right? So it's preparing to protect ourselves. So consciously, we might think, God, I don't know why I'm so anxious. There's nothing going on. Things are going pretty good. But subconsciously, with our body, it's releasing the chemicals that it has for years during this time to help you. It might not be helpful now, but at the time, your body was trying to do what it could to keep you safe. Your mind and body work together, and I wish that I've had a better retaining of the body keeps the score data and stuff that he talks about, but when you have intense feelings and things in your body, it releases chemicals in your body when you get super excited and things like that. You get adrenaline. When you're stressed, it's cortisol, I think it is. That's at least one of them. And so those things go into your body, and then they get stored in fat and muscles and things like that. So when we go through this season, if it's been particularly stressful at any point in your life, if you haven't actively worked on those things, you might find those things sneaking up on you. This can be super tricky when you're meeting with friends and family. And especially, I think most of us have a friend or family member that can be, I don't know, trying for whatever reason. Like they just rub us the wrong way. And then when we have a get together, you're probably already dreading like, oh my God, what are they going to do this time? Or if they do this, then I need to do this. Just, walking through that. And that's already getting ourselves going, right? So getting back to the topic of people being our mirrors, right? What I'm noticing is, or have been noticing, the more that I'm paying attention, like trying to be present, something that somebody else is doing that might frustrate me, typically it's triggering to me for, I don't know, probably there's many different reasons why it might be, but mainly it's either this person is doing something that I wish I could do and I haven't done it, and I'm frustrated or jealous. Like, why do they get this and I don't? Envious could be a good word if that's not like a... I would have to look up the Brené Brown definition, but envious is like... We typically interchange jealousy in envy, and they shouldn't be. Jealous is like, you have something that I want and I don't think you should have it type of thing, or like you're afraid somebody's going to take that thing from you. Whereas envy is like, I envy what you have and I'm not afraid somebody's going to take it, but I want it. But you can have malice envy where it's like, I want what you have and I don't think you should have it, because if I can't have it, you shouldn't have it type of thing. So I've noticed there's that. So that's been something I'm working on. If I'm really trying to do better asking questions when somebody is challenging me, like, why is this so frustrating? And not giving them that power and taking that power back into my, like, okay, I'm frustrated. Why am I frustrated? Not, why do they keep doing this? And that's hard, because it's much easier to blame somebody else or be frustrated with somebody else than it is to take a step back and be like, why does it even matter? What is going on inside of me that's getting me so upset about this? Like, and there are situations where, yeah, it's, I don't know, like, unjust or quote unquote not right, I would say. But still, that doesn't justify like my emotions. So I just challenge you during this time when you're meeting with friends or family, and if there's someone or a situation that's particularly challenging, to try to take a step back and ask, like, why is this so upsetting? Is it somewhere, like, another thing is a lack of boundaries. So I am historically bad with boundaries. So bad. I would bend over backwards and do almost anything to accommodate somebody else, and then later on feel resentful about it when that person never asked me to do that in the first place. And that's not fair. That's not fair of me to be resentful to them when they never asked me to bend my boundaries in the first place. So that's another thing is, is there a boundary that you're lacking? Or maybe one that you hinted at, but you didn't enforce, and now they're crossing it. And you're frustrated because maybe if you're like me, you don't know what to do at this point. Like, you want to point fingers, but at the same time, you're annoyed and frustrated with yourself because, well, you never actually said X, Y, and Z. That that's a big one actually for me. I would say that is the biggest one for myself. I see it with me and my children right now. I've been trying to work on setting more boundaries. If you've ever been a breastfeeding mom, you might be able to relate to that because it's hard. Trying to get your own bodily autonomy back after exclusively breastfeeding is another world. And I can feel guilty because I know that that's been a source of comfort for a long time, but I need, like I said, no, this is my body. And this is not the time. And I've learned, like, I get pretty irrationally frustrated at the protests of my kids when, like, they want to hang on me and I want space. When they get frustrated, like, it brings something up in me. Now, I'm doing good going and taking a step or letting my partner know, like, hey, I need a minute. But it bothered me so deeply. Like, why do I get so frustrated? And it comes back to past experiences where, like, I am a sexual assault survivor. And so that trauma is part of that. So I get pretty frustrated. My body is signaling that I'm in danger, and now I'm recognizing I have the power to protect myself, but it's not recognizing I don't have to protect myself in that way from my children. Like, my children's aren't threats, but in a space where I feel like I don't have control over my own body, it sends me into that trauma response. And that was a really crucial link for me to realize through therapy and coaching that those things were linked, because I felt really guilty. Like, where is this anger coming from? And I don't want to be upset with my kids. I don't want to respond how I'm responding. And making that connection of, like, oh shit, like, this is mimicking or mirroring something that I've been through before that I subconsciously don't want to experience or recognize right now. And now I'm taking it out on different situations. So now that I know that, I'm able to, in most cases, take a few deep breaths and sit my child on the floor and let them cry without that making me more upset too, because that's what was happening. It was this really not great cycle of, like, I wanted them to give me my space, but when they would cry, I felt so guilty because I wanted to comfort them, but I didn't want to, like, then that's bending my boundary, because then I'm letting them come up and then I'm teaching them that that's okay. And so I'm feeling resentment. So I'm learning how to recognize, I guess, those patterns of, in that moment, I'm not recognizing that I'm feeling fear, or that I'm not consciously thinking about anything that's happened to me in the past. I am frustrated with what's going on in that moment, or I think, but what's happening is it's triggering a fight or flight response within me, and that makes it really difficult to show up in a way that I want to, right? So I'm seeing this in other ways now too. Like I said, if there's somebody who's difficult within your family, this, like, you might have noticed that maybe you feel like you're not, like, it brings out the worst in you, and that can be extremely frustrating for myself. And I don't think anybody in my family does anything on purpose to, I don't know, to like, they're not triggering me on purpose. These are things that just happen, most likely because I just haven't, I still have work to do in that area. So when I was younger, I really had little to no control over my emotions. So I could be a very angry child. I fought a lot. I hurt others. And that is something that I dislike about myself in my past very much. And I also gave in too much in certain aspects and feel guilty, like I deserved certain things that happened because I didn't stand up for myself. So those are two truths that are very contradictory of each other. And it causes this fight within me when I am around my family, especially when they want to bring up things from when we were kids, like, oh, you were a little brat or you were a little baby. And man, it does something. It does a number on my emotions, right? And I'm learning to see how some things that are said, I'm taking myself kind of out of the equation a little bit, trying not to take things so personally and sitting back to question maybe what their intent was, whether they're doing something to purposefully jab me or not. And then letting myself have that pause of is that upsetting me? And why is that upsetting me? Am I upset right now because of that comment, or am I feeling emotions from back when? Whatever. I hope this makes sense. And again, taking my power back and making a different choice. I just think having this concept in our minds as we move into the holiday is really valuable, because I do think most of us are doing the best we can with the tools we have at our disposal. So that might be a connection attempt or something. I don't know. Some people just really don't like change, so they're going to grasp onto things that feel familiar. So they're going to bring things up from the past, not because of anything necessarily malice, but because that's a part of something that feels, even if it doesn't feel safe, it feels familiar. So then you can go to the other side, and if it's not someone that you really care about, and it's just somebody that can be incredible, I don't know, I try to think of somebody who annoys you so much, and then ask yourself why. What is it that annoys you? And try to go further than just the their voice is annoying or something like that. Try to relate it back to, and then you might not get anything, but you might. There are some people that I used to find so frustrating. I didn't even want to be in the same room as them, couldn't handle them. And then I realized some of it, not all of it, but some of it was they were doing things that I felt I could never do. And here's the catch. I didn't even want to do. That was the most frustrating part of recognizing this. I get super annoyed by people who come off incredibly selfish, or who, I don't know, who are just, I guess, super outgoing, because I'm not the life of the party 9 times out of 10. If I know you, then yeah, Like I can jump in and I go deep fast, right? But I'm not going to be somebody who just walks into a room full of people that I don't know and just be comfortable. So those people I started to find them incredibly annoying and frustrating. And then I realized it's because they have a characteristic that I feel is, and again, I'm working on this, but I deem it a very bad thing to be selfish. Because to me, that is a dangerous thing to be. I'm still working on why and where that all comes from, but so that's my thing. Like, that's something that somebody else does, and it triggers something in me, and I'm just learning how to be like, oh, that's not them necessarily. Like, they're not doing that on purpose, and it's not them that I don't like. It's this thing that I'm seeing that if it were in me, I would feel like it's a really bad thing. I hope that makes sense. And I just challenge you again to try this on. Ask some questions. Think about some people and, I don't know, see if it could help you get into the right mindset when you're meeting with your family to kind of let some of that stress off. I know that it might not feel that way. It feels like a lot of work, honestly, at first, but in my experience, it's brought me so much like freedom and calmness and the chance to be present within the moment, because I'm consciously, I guess, working on showing up in the moment and working through these scenarios. It really does help me. One, I know what boundaries I need, and it helps me set those. And when I set boundaries, even though I hate coming off as someone who, I don't want people to think that I'm selfish, and I don't want to offend anyone. However, I am my best self when I respect my own boundaries and I'm not filled with resentment or anger. When I do these things, I'm able to show up as my best self and love in the most genuine way. And I feel like that's extremely, like a really kind thing to do, not just for myself, but for the other person. Because like I said before, I used to bend over backwards for people without them asking and then felt resentful. And I'm sure I've left a lot of people going like, what the hell just happened? Why is she responding this way? And it's because I sacrificed my own boundaries without being asked to do that. And then I didn't know how to mend it. And then there's that time where you realize it and then you try to set the boundary and the other person lashes out at you, and that's bound to happen too. It's happened to me and it sucks and I don't like it. It actually happened around this time a while ago. So I mean, that's my thing that I'm working through now, and that's what I'm being conscious of moving into this year, is that I know this is going to be hard for me because within the last 3 or 4 years, I've done a lot of work and I put boundaries up where I didn't have them before and had people react not fondly to them. And I'm bracing myself, is what I found, is I'm bracing myself for something bad to happen. And I'm learning to let that go and know that's not, if it happens, it happens. I'm bracing myself for it and trying to reenact it in my head a bajillion times is not going to stop it, and it's not going to make it hurt any less. What I can do is be true to myself, be present and be genuinely kind and loving in a way that works for me. And that's just how it is. And there's going to be good and bad that comes from that. And that's okay. And I have to be okay with the fact that there are going to be things that I do that could possibly trigger someone else, and recognize that as well, that sometimes if someone's responding or lashing out at me, I need to learn to not take that so personally, because there's a good chance that it's not about me, and leaving that space of, we can come back and repair this, because I'm not getting so offended. Like, I'm not taking it personally. I'm allowing there to be space and time to where if we circle back, there can be some healing there, because I'm recognizing that, they're human and they're going to react to things and stuff just like I have and will continue to do, because I'm human. And, we'll deal with it when we can. And hopefully we're going to continue to get better at circling back and repairing things and having hard conversations, which are highly underrated, I might add. Hard conversations are hard, obviously, but they're incredibly rewarding, and gosh, they make things so much easier if you have them up front and kind of know what you're expecting. And then if it doesn't work, you come back and say, hey, I know I said I was okay with this, but I recognize that I feel this way, and understand that, like, you can change your mind and that other person can change their mind. Now, if it's a pattern, that's a whole nother thing. You got to keep that in mind too. But just, I don't know. This has gotten derailed, but I hope that this makes sense. I'm not going to go back and re-record this because I've tried so many times today. And I feel like I'm about to lose my voice again. So, much love to all of you. I am sending so much love and just good thoughts to you all as we come upon the holidays. I know they can be hard and stressful, as well as joyous. They can exist at the same time. Don't beat yourself up, and take time to take care of yourself, all right? You deserve that, and it's the most kind thing that you can do. Like it says in the thing, you need to show up for yourself so you can show up for your life, so you can show up for the people that you love. If you are in any sort of caretaking role, you really need to take taking care of yourself seriously, and not be afraid to go a little deep and, ask yourself, how am I feeling and why? I wish you the best of luck.